Welcome back to another episode of Fishing the 262. In today's video, I just want to give you guys a quick tutorial. One of the questions I sometimes get is how can I put a wire bait keeper onto my jig without modifying the mold? And it's a really fair question because I know I buy most of my molds, but there's a couple that I share with a buddy. So I'm certainly not going to modify his mold, but there is a workaround for it. We're going to head over to the bench and I'm going to show you how to do it. Stay tuned. Okay, here we are over at the bench. What I've got here is just a standard Do-It Molds football head, and you can see there's no wire bait keeper. It's just got the lead that poured in the mold. I do not own this mold. This mold belongs to a buddy of mine, so I certainly don't want to go modifying someone else's mold, but the workaround is really simple, you guys. All you're going to need is one of these guys right here. That's a WB400 that you use like in the freestyle jig or the Midwest finesse mold. And what I do is there's a little notch on there, and I don't know how well that's going to show up on camera. I'm just going to go ahead and cut that right off of there real quick with just a little snips. You can leave it on and tie around it if you want to. I like to cut it off. I think it's easier to deal with. So the first thing you're going to do once you have that cut, I'm just going to use brown thread because that's what's on my bobbin, is I'm going to start my wrap on the collar as I normally would. Cut my tag end off here. And I'm going to continue wrapping down the jig until I get onto the hook shank. You can see now I'm on the hook shank. Hopefully that's showing up. And I'm going to give that about 6 or 8 or 10 wraps going down the hook shank towards the point. You want to be careful once you get near the point because you don't want to nick your thread on it and cut your thread. And then I'm just going to come back up to the base of the lead. Now I'm going to take a little bit of super glue, just Loctite gel. I'm going to put a little dab onto my thread there. Doesn't take much, just a little bit. Find my little wire keeper here. We're going to slide that through the glue, and then we're just going to wrap around that keeper. Decent amount of tension on this too, you guys. I mean, obviously, this is 210 flat wax denier, so you can put a good bit of tension on it without really having to worry about breaking it. I'm just trying to be careful as I go around by the hook point. I'm going to come back up. Again, a decent amount of tension, and you can do this up and down. And then I'm going to just come back up the jig. And you can stop right there if you want to, guys. The super glue will hold that in place. You can take it one step further, just get you some Sally Hansen's hard as nails, a little bit of nail polish. And we're just going to brush a little nail polish to seal those threads off. Is this 100% foolproof? Almost. Over time, these will loosen up and you may lose your wire keeper, but I don't generally fish jigs long enough for it to matter. I usually use a jig for one trip. If it's still tied on the rod, I might use it again, but generally speaking, especially on a tournament day, I'm going to start the day off with a brand new jig. So that's it. That's all you got to do, you guys. A little WB400 wire keeper. I've got one that I tied up ahead of time so that you guys can kind of get a look at it. This is real basic. I don't do anything too fancy to my jigs, you guys. So just a green pumpkin with an orange, and we'll flip that around so you can see. There's that WB400 wire keeper. That's going to hold any bait you want on that jig for as long as you own this jig. Like I said, I mean, if you really started working it and prying on it, you could probably pull that out of there, but just for your day-to-day fishing purposes, that will hold any bait that you want. A lot of guys think it's a waste of time. I know some guys that just don't want to deal with super glue in their boat at all. They just want to use that wire keeper and thread their bait on and get right to fishing. I don't mind having super glue in the boat, but I also, if I've got the spare time, I will go ahead and tie up a few with the wire keeper as well. These are particularly handy if you're going to use anything that's Elastec on the back of a jig. I don't use a lot of Elastec, so I don't usually just go with, here's the Arky head. I'm not going to tie a wire keeper on there. Most likely, I'll just throw a dab of super glue on there and slide my churler up over that and let it be. But it's really easy to do, you guys. So if you want to do it, that's how you do it. It's really simple. There's nothing to it. Super basic, and anybody that has a vise and a bobbin can do this. If you don't have access to that, you could just use a little piece of shrink tubing, I'd imagine, and shrink tube that on there. I don't know if that would be as durable as a thread tie, but it's definitely something that would be worth exploring as well. But really easy to do, you guys. I feel like I'm getting really redundant here, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. But that is how you tie a wire bait keeper onto a standard jig without modifying your mold. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. We'll see you on the next episode. Tight lines, everybody.